Okay, today is Saturday. It's 12:39 a.m. It is January 14th. It's February 14th. It has taken me 5 long years to get to this point. 5 years. It took me 5 long years to come to this conclusion. Many years ago, I would look in the mirror. I would look in the mirror and I would try to look at myself, but I could not see. I could not see myself because I was only looking at the external features. I was looking in the mirror, okay? When the mirror shows, I see the external physical description, the characteristics of the person in front of me, which is a reflection of me flipped around. I would look at myself and I said, "Who are you?" Okay, I would ask myself, "So who are you? Who? Who are you?" Okay? Why is it that I cannot see you? Okay, I cannot see you, right? Because if I don't see myself, then I don't know what the starting point is. Okay, I don't know where the starting line is. It all goes back to it's quite amazing how life reflects trading. So it all goes back. It all goes back to Father Dominic's view. So I got there like in half an hour. I looked around in the compound. He works in a compound, and he uh, has appointments with people outside to help them out with faith and things like that. And so he has customers. And so I was fortunate enough to have the privilege of seeing Father Dominique. But I got there half an hour and I looked around inside and outside, but I was not able to attract his attention. So, right at the point of appointment, I somehow went to the front of the house, the front of the compound, and rang the doorbell. Okay? Then Father Dominic came over, and then that was the entry point. That's the starting line. Before then, half an hour before, I was running around trying to figure out what things are and things, and then, but it turned out the starting point was that doorbell being rung, okay, at the precise time that I was supposed to be there. But before then, I was rummaging around, looking around, sitting on the patio, looking inside, peering inside, going to the left, going to the right, going outside, looking around, um, seeing other people on the premises and things like that. But that's where the starting line is, right? So a few years ago, I looked at myself. So who are you? Who are you? Okay, who are you? Okay, it all goes back. It all goes back. It all goes back. It just goes way back. Okay, it does. And then I thought to myself 5 years ago, 20 years ago, okay, 30 years ago, okay, I thought I knew who I was, and I thought I was ready for everything. Okay, I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready in many instances. I was ready in many instances. But there are certain things that I require in order for me to be really ready for certain things, okay? Because in real life, people start doing something without being ready. People do that. It happens all the time. Life has that perspective. There's a thing called fake it until you make it, right? Fake it until you make it. That's how it works. Nobody's truly ready for anything. I was never ready for this thing, something called a felony and restitution and all that stuff. I was never ready. Okay, I was not ready. Okay, if I was ready, I would know what to do the first day, but I was not ready. I'm still not ready. Then, as times go by, I start to understand what's involved. So, what I noticed about trading is this. Okay, what I noticed about trading is this. I was never ready. Okay, I knew how to click buttons. I knew how to buy and sell. That was easy. Okay, I could look at a manual and I go, hey, look, that's how you do it. But there's a lot of things that are involved. Uh, there's a lot of things that are involved in order to become a profitable trader. Okay, and on YouTube, there's a lot of people who say, well, I just had to do this one thing, and then it made me profitable. But there's a lot of things. That needs to be done prior to getting to that point. Okay, so it's like an iceberg. 90% is underwater, 10% is above. In the beginning, I'm at the bottom of that iceberg. I know nothing, absolutely nothing. And then as I start to build knowledge, I start to understand where I am, how much I know. As I start to climb up, I'm thinking, okay, so this must be the point where I understand. But there's more to do, more studying, more looking at myself. It's an introspection. As I start to introspect, I begin to climb above, get to the point where now I get to the point where it's the water line. Okay, it's the water line where the 10% is above and 90% is down. And I'm looking at the water line and I'm saying to myself, oh, this is trading. This is trading. This is why it's so difficult. Okay, this is why it's so difficult. There's so many things that's involved. Quite a few things involving me. Okay, I I have a enormous amount of contribution to the impact and the results of what's going to happen. Okay, the end result, I have a I control what happens. Okay, I control what happens ultimately. Uh, ultimately, what happens? Okay, I control it. I determine. I am the master of my domain. As long as I know who I am and what I'm doing. Okay. So how did I figure this out? How did I figure out this conclusion that I have, which is this? I finally started to see myself. Okay. I finally started to see myself just yesterday, just today. I started to finally see myself of what kind of a trader I am. Before I said to myself, yeah, I'm profitable. When I was getting payouts at 5K, yeah, I was profitable. But that was only a momentary kind of situation when everything aligned. And so it allowed me to be profitable. Sure enough, I was profitable. I was profitable then. Then for the past 6 months, I've been trying to chase that with a higher denomination, but I failed. And then I failed for months. Okay, lost a lot of money. Okay, then I started to, I then I, it just came to me. It says, I'm looking at the mirror and I'm trying to look for myself. Who am I? But there's a deeper. The mirror, the mirror only shows only the top 10% of the superficial things. What is being exposed? But what's behind is the 90% of. So the mirror and the iceberg is very similar. Okay, very very similar. So what makes up a beauty is not the superficial kind of thing that's in front, but what's behind it. Okay? 90% of the beauty is behind it. Okay? 90%. 90% of the things are behind underwater. Or when I look in the mirror, 90% the beauty is in there, right? So I suppose so that means when a vampire looks in the mirror, the vampire doesn't show because the vampire is dead. Okay? It's not alive. The vampire is not alive. That's why the vampire can't be seen in the mirror. There's no reflection because the vampire is dead. It's gone. It's not there. Okay? Okay. So what I've noticed is this. What I've noticed is this. I noticed that I became conscious of who I am as a trader just today. Just today, I became conscious of who I am today. How do I know this? How do I know that I am conscious of who I am today? Well, so Funding Pips has this sale, okay? It's a 20% discount. So I thought to myself, maybe I should get that. I'll get the 5K account. It should be okay. I'll just get the 5K account. That's the cheapest one. And I can just go through it. Then I'm about to click it, and I thought to myself, I'm not ready for that. Because I promised myself, look, I need to pass the demo 10 times. Okay? 10 times. Without any failures in between. Okay? It has to be 10 consecutive passes on a demo account before I can buy another challenge. Okay? Because I know, based on this week's trading on the demo account, I made a couple mistakes. Which is I still have not used my stop loss in certain situations because if I risk it too much, any movement will trigger it and it'll be lost. So I need to really understand what risk is and how risk I need to trade. So what I have to do is how does risk I have to tie the risk with size, okay? Because I really can't put a stop loss on something if I put all the risk where if it moves just a little bit, it has zero relevance to what the stop loss is because the stop loss has to be here. But if I put such a huge size on it, I could be breached right here. And so I have to ask myself, okay, so is that really realistic? Okay? So then I have to really formulate what my risk size is going to be. Okay? I can't be risking everything when it moves this much. I can't do that. The risk size has to be bigger. Okay, the breach has to be bigger. Breach amount has to be bigger than the risk. Okay? Probably somewhere here so I can have multiple chances of trying to make it work. So I said to myself, I realized, okay, so this is very important. I thought to myself, this is very, very important. It reverberates everywhere into life. It's like somebody who's sitting there at a bar drinking alcohol, okay? You're drinking alcohol, okay? And saying, I had enough. I'm at a point where if I drink a little more, then it's going to interfere with motor activity and my thinking. And therefore, I will be at great amount of risk if I exceed this amount. And the person stops. That means that the person is properly able to gauge the self in relation to the concept called the inebriation of being under the influence of alcohol, right? So that's knowing the self so that it can be stopped immediately, right? It also, it is so relevant to trading. It has so much relevance to trading. It's like being fat too, right? It's like being fat. I'm saying, okay, look, if I eat this much, there's going to be a calorie oversupply. And what the body does is if there's an oversupply of calories, it'll either attempt to burn it off at that moment or it's going to store it into fat. And that's why people get fat, okay? That's what happens. And so when I say to myself, oh, look, I had enough of food, so I'm going to stop right now. Right there. That's knowing myself. I know myself, okay? With my physical activity level, my mental activity level, and the way that I'm conducting myself, the type of work that I do, the calories that are required is about a certain amount. And if I exceed it, I'm going to gain weight. And if I sit in a prolonged period of time in a single location, I'm going to gain weight. Now this also applies to now it all comes back to trading. Okay, it all comes back to trading. Okay, it all comes back to trading. The FOMO, over trading, okay, risking too much, okay, sizing too big, okay, spending too much, okay, uh, trading too much, okay, spending way too much physical and mental energy to do something, to trading, right? And so all those things are relevant in applying towards the discipline of trading. Okay, so then I thought to myself, okay, so now I have an idea what I'm capable of, what I lack, and what I can do. That means that if I know now this thing directly relates to trading too. So in trading, I have to wait for my setup. Okay, I have to wait for my setup. That means I have to know myself in order to know that I recognize that setup. That's what it means. Okay, that's what it means. It means, it means, it means that I have to be capable of. Okay, I have to be capable of recognizing the setup. Okay, I have to be aware. Okay, if I'm not aware, so if I'm not aware of what setup is, then I can't trade. I cannot trade. I don't because when I trade, obviously the the statistical advantage has disappeared because I'm forcing it. I'm trying to force the issue. Okay, and the idea of trading is to make sure. Okay, the idea is to make sure that I'm taking the optimum setups. Okay, in my trading. So the question is this. Okay, the question is this. The question is, do you know yourself? Do you know yourself? Okay. Okay. What I've noticed about today is that I'm now able to see myself. I don't know how I was able to start seeing myself, but now I am able to see myself. Okay. 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I thought I was ready to trade. So I started risking money, real money, into trading. Now people said, well, you should do the demo trading. You should do back testing, all that stuff before you risk any amount of money. And I recommend that to everybody. Okay, that's what you should do. All right, that's what you should do. And then I started trading for the past 5 years, losing every penny, taking all the money that I spent, and then just risking it all, every bit of it. Okay, I make a little bit, I risk that, and I lose that, and I did that for the past, uh, and I did that for 5 years. I did that for 5 years. Okay, I did that for 5 years, 5 long years. I did that. I gave up every penny that I had. Because I didn't know myself. I didn't know I didn't know what trading was, how complicated it is, but I thought I knew. It's like I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought, even though there was no substance. Okay? So how was I able to get to this point of knowing that I was not ready? Okay, how was I don't know. Maybe it was that guy at Costco. I was at a gas station at Costco, and I was parked on the left side, and my gas tank was on the left side, and so I had to pull the hose all the way around. But I didn't finish punching one of the buttons, and so so I was about to pump, it didn't come out, and so the attendant came over and says, hey, you're not ready. You're not ready. Okay, I thought to myself, oh, that guy should be fired for saying that to me, right? So I had to walk over, and so yeah, he's right, but you don't have to mention it. So I walk over and I clicked on it. So then I came back and I started to put the fuel in, and that was it. So I was not ready. Something in the data. Obviously, it happens all the time, right? It happens all the time, right? It's no big deal. I mean, things like that do happen. But in trading, things like that will cost me money when I'm not ready and I'm doing something. And when I make mistakes like that, it costs money. Everything has to fit in. Everything has to be aligned. The ducks have to be aligned in a manner where I can make the trades properly. If I don't make the trades properly, then obviously I'm going to lose, right? And so the data was staring right at me for the past 5 years. The data was there. The data was there. It was like lose, 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 lose for the past 5 years. Every day I would lose. Every month I would lose. Okay? Every year that I would lose. It's been going on for 5 years and I still could not put those things together. Okay? Nobody in the world would say that to me. Nobody. Nobody in this whole world would tell me, hey, look, you're not ready. You're not, look, you're not ready. You have to go back to demo. Nobody will say that. Nobody. Nobody in this world will say, you have to go back to demo because you don't have an edge. Okay, nobody. Nobody will say that. Well, some people say, well, maybe you should put your money maybe you should put your money in the 401k or something. You should put it into some sort of a fund so they could take care of it for you, right? Of course they're right because I was not ready. When I'm ready, then I will have a higher I will have the edge that allows me to be profitable. But until then, I'm not ready. I'm obviously not ready, right? So, I'm gonna get some water. So somebody told me at a Costco gas station, look, you're not ready. You're not ready. You are not ready to make trades. So what I decided to do is it's a matter of it's a matter of it's a matter of looking at the data and then gauging where I am, right? So everything has to be based on that too. So even a setup has to be gauged on certain criterias and it has to meet that criteria. If it does not meet that criteria, then it's not the setup. I cannot be taking that I cannot be taking that trade because it has to meet a certain criteria. Unless it meets that criteria, then it's not a proper setup. Right? And so it's important. It's an incredibly important thing. It's an incredibly important thing. Something that I was not. I believe what happens is it's called an addiction. I think it's probably an addiction. Is the core problem is the addiction. Addiction causes this problem to arise. Addiction is the thing that causes this to occur. Addiction is it. It keeps me from seeing the reality. It keeps me from looking at the data and saying, hey, looking at the data and making the right conclusion about the data. Okay. That's why I was fooling myself. Okay. That's why when I look at something, I'm saying to myself, I'm self-sabotaging. I'm self-sabotaging myself at that moment. But I'm expecting something that I was not ready to do. Okay. I was trying to do something that I was clearly not ready to do because I was unable to see myself in the mirror. Okay. I was not able to see myself in the mirror, the person who's reflecting back. Okay? The person who is actively trading was not ready to participate in something called trading. Okay? Because there's a lot of things that needs to be done. And one of the best ways to figure this out is to go on demo. I had to be on a demo, and then the demo will show me based on its result whether I'm ready or not. If I am ready, then the demo will show me with data, that says, "Hey, I'm ready." Okay. So that means. See, this is some. I see. That means that I'm in a world of like I'm in a world where I don't even understand how the world works, because in my mind I'm thinking, see, I have been living in a dream world all this time. I was living in a dream world all this time. Okay. And I had no idea. I was living in a dream world and I had no idea. I was living in a dream world and I had no idea until today. Okay? I was living in a dream world and I had no idea that I was in a dream world, because I was not taking in the data. I was not taking in the data that told me that this is the real world. This is the real life. Okay? I was literally living in a dream world. Okay? I believe that's what's happening for those people who are 90% of the time. 90% of people are living in a dream world. Okay? I am living in a dream world. Okay? I am living in a dream world. The dream is this. I'm saying to myself, I am profitable. Okay? That's why I'm risk. How else could I say it? Or I could be saying I'm not profitable, but I'm still putting money in there. But how does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But that's what I've been doing. I've been putting in the money and I've been saying to myself, look, I'm not profitable. I'm justifying it by saying, okay, I need to do this because I have to risk real money. Okay? Because it gives me the full exposure to it. Okay? At least I'm not spending $500 to buy a 100K challenge. I'm saying to myself, I'm justifying it. I'm saying to myself, look, I'm trading with a 5K account. It's costing me $30 every time I try it, but still, that's too much. Okay, that's still too much. It never occurred to me. It never occurred to me. It never occurred to me that the real life data was staring right back at me. Right, the real life data was staring right back at me. It was telling me. It was telling me that's what's going on. Okay. So the data right now is saying this. It's like I haven't really studied the data. Okay, even though the data was there, I wasn't able to interpret the data. I did take the data back when I was trading options. But back when I was trading options, I would have these things, and I said, "Well, I tilted and I lost." And these things were occurring. I lost because of this. I lost this. I didn't put a stop loss in. So all those were like mistakes. To me, all those were mistakes. They weren't telling me that they weren't telling me that I wasn't ready. Okay? It wasn't. It was telling me that I was making mistakes. Okay? And I accepted it. And I felt that that was part of doing the business. Okay? But doing the business is something different. Once I become profitable, I know, because there's wins and losses. Doing the business requires a certain amount of balance between winning winners and losers. And at the end of it, the winners defines whether I'm profitable or not for a prolonged period of time. And And if I'm sophisticated, and if I'm sophisticated, then I will have if I'm sophisticated in trading, I will be able to make the trades on a consistent basis. Every trade. It may or may not be, it may or may not be profitable, okay? It may or may not, because it's based on statistical probability, right? And so then what I've noticed about this is a profound awakening, really. And I believe everybody knows. Essentially everybody knows about it. People who trade, who don't trade, who are looking at it and saying, "Well, why is this guy making trades? Why is this person making trades when uh, why is this person making trades when the person is clearly not profitable and losing money? Why would somebody why would somebody uh, why would somebody put money into something when clearly this person is not profitable? Why does it do that? And people are looking at, "Oh, that guy's a fool. That guy's stupid. That guy's dumb," right? It's true. It's true. The smart thing to do is always to make sure. The smart thing to make sure is to uh, the smart thing to do is to make sure that uh, that when I risk money, okay, real money, that I need to be ready. I have to be. I have to know that I have the edge, and until I have an edge, I cannot be risking any money whatsoever. Okay, I could spend the rest of my life spending every penny that I have. Right? I could spend. I can spend. I can spend every penny that I have. I can spend every penny that I have. Okay, I can spend every penny that I have for the rest of my life, or I could go into the demo and I can trade the demo for the rest of my life, where I can save money. Right? So that's the difference. That's the way I need to look at it. Right? So today's the day that I finally realized. Today's the day that finally realized that I was able to see myself in the mirror. I can see myself. The person is staring back at me. The 90% of me is staring right back at me. The mirror, the mirror that I looked into. I'm looking at myself right now. This is a Google Pixel phone, okay? And this camera is displaying an image of myself, and I'm looking into it. I'm talking to it, and I can see myself now. I can see who I am, and I've said this before. I am not a profitable trader right now. I was when I was trading the 5K, but something happened. Something happened where I thought I knew, but the formula that I've developed worked only for that time. Now it doesn't work now. Okay, so whatever the formula that I had, I suppose it's like developing a secret formula. I used it to become profitable, and then I lost it, kind of thing, right? And so then the secret formula back then must have had something to do with the right amount of risk size. It has to have a risk size. It has to have a risk size so that I don't risk too much on a single trade. And then stop loss has to be used all the time. Okay. So it seems like those two come, and the setup needs to be executed properly. Okay. So essentially, these three things in balance will allow me to make the right trades. That was the right formula. That was the right formula. But when I get upset and I lose, I want to win it back. Either some of these will get compromised, and when those things get compromised, then I lose the challenge. It becomes a breach. Okay, so there's a couple things that I've noticed about my trading. The first one is that I've finally become aware. I was finally able to see myself. I was finally able to see myself. Okay, I was able to finally see myself that I am an unprofitable trader at this moment, which means that I can't be spending any money whatsoever. I cannot be spending any money in trading whatsoever. Even if it's $5. Even if it costs me $5, I can't be trading it. So the idea for me now is to make sure that before risking any amount, I have to prove to myself that I am profitable. And if I don't prove to myself that I'm profitable, then there's no point in trading. Okay? Trading with live money. So where do I go from here? Okay, so where do I go from here? All right. So where do I go from here? So I finally I was finally able to see myself now. I can see myself, and I know that I'm not a profitable trader. And based on what my data, how am I able to see myself? I see myself because I looked at the data. And for the past 5 years, I haven't made any money. Now my trading buddy, he makes money, but I'm not making any money. I'm not making money at all. So today, then like this day, I finally realized, hey, uh, all the data has shown me that I have no edge, and I'm a losing trader. Okay, all the data is telling me this. All the data is telling me that I'm not ready to I'm not ready to trade. Okay, that's what it means. I cannot. I'm ready to trade. Okay, I'm ready to trade, make the trades and things like that in order to like back test and forward test and things like that. I can trade, but I'm not ready to risk real money yet because so far I have been living a dream world. I've been living in a dream world, thinking that I was ready and I was risking money, thinking that I was going to get something out of it when after I started risking money. See, the 90% of the people, they're just like me, okay? Uh, they're just like me. 90% of people who are in the market are just like me, who are losing. They're losing because they're not able to see themselves. They're not able to see themselves. They can't see themselves. Even though the data is screaming at them that they're not ready to trade, but they keep trading because nobody is able to convince them. Nobody is able to convince them. Nobody is able to convince them that they are not ready. Okay? So the idea for me now is to now what I need to do now, what I'm trying to do right now, and which I will do now is essentially now what I'm gonna do. Essentially, what I'm gonna do is this. Okay, I'm gonna keep saying this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I pass 10 demo counts with to my satisfaction, which allows me to reduce the errors that I make. Okay, the errors that I make, and make sure that the trades that I'm making are the right way that I make it, and then I pass it 10 times in a row. Okay, if I fail at any moment, any time before then I'm not ready, obviously, because because I'm not ready to trade real money. That's what it means. In order for me to make that switch into real money, I have to make sure that I'm ready. Okay, I have to make sure. And one way to make sure that I'm ready is to look at the data that says, okay, um, I have these 10 demo accounts that I've been trading, and I have been successful with 10 of them without losing any challenge in between. Once that once that happens, then I've established my consistency. Okay, it means that I've established my consistency. All right, so that's the plan. Now the second is making sure. Hopefully, I've narrowed it down. But these are the critical components, which is the risk size, the stop loss, and the setup preparation. That's very important. That's a critical ingredient in making sure that I'm taking trades that are correct. And so when I look back on yesterday, I made this trade. This was UC. UC was doing this. Okay. So every time it goes up, I thought, okay, it's going to go back up. It's a reversal. But that was wrong. Okay. So I have to wait until it has established a higher high. As soon as it establishes a higher high and it holds that level, then there is a higher probability that it is a reversal and not a pullback. So I have to make sure that I have my setups properly set up, and so it may not be, it may these trading things may not occur. The results may not occur that day or the second day or the third day, or it might take more than a couple weeks or maybe a month. But that's how things work. Waiting for my setups to occur and taking that trade when that setup is there. Okay, and make sure now that I have the risk size sufficiently sized, that means that the stop loss will be useful. The stop loss is going to be useful when I do that. Okay, the stop loss. So these are the three things. These are the things that I need to be conscious of when I'm making these trades. So looking ahead, this is like what is that now? This is 2 weeks into February. This is the second week of February. Okay, two more weeks to February before February ends. But uh, however long it takes, I need to live in the world of demo and treat it like I'm like risking real money. Uh, and and uh, and uh, and keep working at it. Keep trading and make sure that and keep doing what I'm doing. Okay, keep doing what I'm doing. Right now, it's like okay, so I'm really not making any money. I'm like I'm essentially like in a demo world, and I'm essentially not a relevant person of what trading is, and so that's the way it is. But uh, that's the way that I have to conduct myself. That's the way that I have to conduct myself until I get to the point where now I'm finally at a point where I'm profitable. Uh, so when I look at all these YouTube channels, they say, "Well, don't give up, don't give up." They keep saying, "Don't give up," right? Okay, okay, don't give up, don't give up, right? Don't give up, but use a demo. If you're at a point where you're thinking about like giving up, go back to demo. Just demo. Okay, that's the best way to do it. You have to prove it out. You have to prove it out in a demo and say if the demo works, then it's good. But if you can't prove it out in a demo environment that you're profitable, where the demo data is the same as the live data, then there's no point in risking real money, right? There's no point. It took me 5 years to really come to that conclusion. It took me 5 years to come to that conclusion. 5 long years to figure that out. Why is it nobody saying this? Why is it nobody saying why is it nobody's like pinpointing exactly? Okay, so the first question is, are you profitable? If they say, well, I've been losing, I've been making money and losing, but net I'm losing. Well, go back to demo, okay, and make sure that you go through a period of time where you're profitable. Once you're profitable for a period of time, then you can switch back. But you can't do that if you're constantly losing. And you're saying, well, it's emotion kind of thing. Well, you can't do that. What I've noticed as I was trading the demo, that there is some emotional that's involved too. Okay, there is. After a while, the emotion is involved as I start to make the right trades, and I start feeling it. I start feeling it. The money's not there, but I start feeling that I need to make the right trades. And if it moves against me, there is that emotion that pops up. Okay, it's like a video game that doesn't cost anything. Okay, there's no cost whatsoever. So this is like a this essentially is stops my losses immediately. This essentially stops everything in its tracks. Okay, it stops everything. It stops it stops everything. It's like losing an arm to a shark, and then I finally put a tourniquet around my arm, whatever's left of it. It feels that way. It's like trading is a world where it's filled with sharks. They know what they're doing, and quite a few are firms who are on the opposite side of my trade because they know who I am. They precisely know what I'm doing. They know how things are. Okay. So this is now a Saturday. I go to work in about 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours. I go to work in about 13 hours, but I'm here. I feel so irrelevant because I'm not risking any money, but I know this is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. It's like it's like a cousin of mine, a cousin is an artist. Okay, she lives in Georgia, and she was asking me about her father and and where her father was living. And what I could tell her is that I used to live in that house, and so I described what her house looked like, what her father's house looked like when he was living there. And 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 now why am I talking about that? Right? She's an artist. She's talking about it, and she wants to know a little more background about her family, right? That's what she wants to do, right? So now I'm at a point where now, like, I've come to a full circle. It's I don't know how I got here. I could have been doing this for forever. I could have said I quit. I could have quit. Okay, I could have. Maybe this is quitting. Okay, maybe this is quitting. Maybe this is quitting trading until I figure out how to trade. So I'll still be trading demo, but essentially I've quit. I've quit trading a live money until I can prove to myself that I am profitable and I have an edge. Okay, I have to do that. So there are several mistakes that I keep making. One of them is like trading when I see a green candle, I go berserko, and then I start get entering into it, and obviously it reverses, and then the trend is down, but I'm like every little bump I'm thinking it's a reversal. I take it, and so that's a problem. and I risk way too big. When I risk way too big, I cannot. It cannot match. It's a mismatch. Okay, the risk size. If the risk is too big, it has a mismatch with the stop loss. So there has to be a concern. There has to be an integration between the risk size, the stop loss, okay, and the setup. There has to be a integration. There has to be an integration of. There has to be. There has to be a. There has. See, these have to work together. Okay. These things have to work together. If it doesn't work together, then it's not gonna work out. It has to work together. Okay. Right. It has to work together. If I'm expecting, okay, so now I'm like, so I've already stated, okay, so I've already stated that, uh, so in order to move into one, I have to integrate all these things and then point to a single objective, which is to win. Okay. So in order for the stop loss to be useful, it has to be relevant. Okay. But if my risk is too big, then the account will be blown before it gets to stop loss. And I can do that at times, right? That's one. That's how the risk size and the stop loss has to work together, okay? So the objective has to be clear. It has to be crystal clear. So then what I'm looking at is the risk, okay? What is the risk, okay? Um, the risk is going to define what size that I trade, where the stop loss is going to be, okay? And also, uh, if the setup is gonna be the same thing. If I enter into a trade that is already fully blown into that particular trend, then when I enter, then when it pulls back, depending on where the price is, it's going to define where the stop loss is going to be and what the risk size is going to be. If I'm late into trading, so I have to figure out. See, this is the point where I don't understand when something breaks out. When something is breaking out and it keeps going up, I don't know where to enter because I don't know how to correctly assign the stop loss. Okay? I don't know how to correctly assign the stop loss because it has moved significantly. And when I enter here, I'm thinking I'm gonna tie ticket, and then so when it pulls back, then I'm gonna lose at this point. So that's why I'm concerned. I'm concerned about entering into trade that is breaking out. Okay, when it's breaking out. So so it seems like the more that I look at trading, the more I look at trading, it is as though it is it is as though there are certain concepts that need to be balanced together in order to consistently overcome each trade and make sure that I'm making progress. So I'm now thinking more in depthly about what trading really is and what's involved in trading. Okay. And then now I'm attempting to incorporate the risk size. So if the risk size is, so if I'm saying, okay, so if one trade is sufficiently big, if one trade is sufficiently big, if one trade is sufficiently big, one loss could essentially ruin my challenge. So do I need to break it down? Okay. Do I need to play the strategy of? Do I need to play the strategy of? Do I need to do I need to play the uh, strategy of looking at it from a perspective of multiple trades, right? That's what I need to be looking at. I need to be looking at that. So if I look at that look at it from that perspective, uh, 5% daily loss. I'm looking at it from a 5% daily loss perspective. Okay, I'm looking at it from a 5% daily loss perspective, and I'm attempting to make. So what I'm attempting to do is, if I have a 1-to-1 ratio, then I need to make sure that I have a higher amount of winners than losers. Okay, right? So if that means that it is if it's 5%. Okay, if it's 5%, that means if it's 5%, that means that 1/10 of that will be a half a percent. So what I need to be doing on each trade that I make, I risk half a percent. Okay, what I'm attempting to do is make risk half a percent per trade. I have to risk about a half a percent on each trade, so that if I lose, then it's a half a percent. But if I make it, I'm looking at upwards of half a percent to 1%. Okay, or even more, or even more. But I'm looking at a point where I'm making about a half a percent to about a percent, or it could be more. I could hold on to it if things look good. Okay. So if I am able to make 2% per day, if I'm able to make 2% per day, that's tremendous. That's a big deal. Okay, that's a so that means that if I make 5 trades and I lose one, and if I win on the four, that means I should have somewhere around maybe about a 3% per day. I'm looking at about a 3% per day gain kind of thing. If I can make about 3% gain per day, the goal is about 3%. If I can do that, that's the way I need to do it. Now, when I have the careful selection of setups, that's going to allow me to that's so when I have a proper setup and I take the setup properly, when I have the right setup and I'm taking it properly, then that's going to elevate that's going to increase my the 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 probability that the trade is going to be working out better for me, right? And the stop loss is just going to fit right in with the stop loss is going to fit just what it is. Okay. If it moves slightly against me, and if it goes beyond my stop loss, it means that I was wrong. Okay. I was not entering into the setup properly, and I didn't because the stop loss is going to be based on purely based on it's gonna be a iterative process where it's gonna be somewhere around a half a percent. It's got to be half a percent. It's got to be half a percent. So that when I enter it, it's got to be about half a percent, whatever the situation is. However big that stop loss, the distance from where the entry point is, it has to be half a percent. It cannot exceed it. It cannot exceed that. If it exceeds that, then it's so I'm like I'm I'm like integrating. I'm integrating the most critical part about the central theme about trading. Okay, placing a trade. Okay, so I gotta figure out. I gotta conclusively come to the conclusion. I have to be I have to be at a it has to be a conclusive means for me to it has to be conclusive. The way I do this, it has to be conclusive. Okay, it has to be conclusive. Then I'm gonna stick to it. Okay, I'm gonna stick to it, and then use that formula to back test. But I need to logically think things through. I have to logically think things through. And when the logically it thinks through, then it's going to allow me to. So sometimes I might make 10 trades, right? So if I'm making 10 trades, then it's gonna be great. So if I make 10 trades and I lose twice, that's 1% loss. And because it's 10%, if I'm getting like probably about a percent per each trade, that's 8% minus 2%, which is 6%. Something like that is possible. Something like that is definitely possible. Something like that is very possible. So so now so when I was trading, I thought I had no idea how those things are. I had no idea how those things play together. I had no idea how those things are integrated together to make trading successful. I didn't realize that. So trading now it has to be based on risk. Okay, it has to be based on risk. I cannot rely on purely the fact that the setup is correct and I can risk anything I want. Anything can happen. Something could happen to turn it around and cause my trade to go the other way. Okay. So that means what I'm gonna do. So what I need to do is so that's what I'm gonna okay. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna look for a half a percent loss each trade. I'm gonna look for a half a percent loss. Okay. I'm going to make sure that each trade is a half a percent loss. Okay. I'm gonna trade it that way. I'm gonna go for because what I was doing is when I was trading the yeah, somehow I was able to trade it. Somehow I was able to trade it really well with the 5K. It must have had something to do with me eating some oatmeals or something like that that caused me to be less um, less dependent on my external environment. Because the interactions that I have in my environment will cause me to deviate from my trading, and that causes me to sleep less or eat less or exercise less or whatever the situation is, right? So so now I now have a clear objective. Okay, I have a clear objective of how trading should be done, and I'm going to follow through it and see how effective it is. Okay, I'm gonna. So the formula right now, I've formulated it right now. The formula for trading is going to be now. Um, so what I'm gonna do is use. So I'm gonna manage risk. Okay, I wanna manage risk, and stop loss is going to be how I'm going to manage my risk on the downside, which is going to be a half a percent. Every trade that I take is going to be a half a percent. Okay, that will allow me to be faster in my trading. Okay, when I was doing the 5K, I was able to pass it in 2 weeks, which is like 10 days. So and then was able to pass the 5% in 1 week. Making sure that I made the trades properly. That means that I was able to make about a percent each day, roughly about 1% per day. I made roughly about 1% per day. Now, what I'm attempting to do is see if I can make the idea is to make 10 trades per day. That's the idea. Okay? So the idea is to make 10 trades per day. Okay? Each trade is going to be a half a percent risk. Half a percent risk on each trade. All right? And I'm going to make sure that when I'm taking the trades, those 3 trades are taken and nothing else. Until I figure out, see, there's when something is trading, it's difficult for me to trade unless I'm in it early. When I'm in it early, when I am in a when something is trading, trending and I'm in it early, then I can hold on to it. But usually what I do is, as soon as it gets to a certain point, I exit. As soon as the first pullback comes out, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to reverse, and I get out because my thinking is reversal. So I need to understand the principle of reversal and pullback more closely, so I can take those trades. So the first is the strong support. The second one is a soft support, and the other is essentially a breakout of some sort, right? Breakouts are breakouts are good to have when the market is volatile. Volatility allows the breakouts to work. Okay, volatility allows breakouts to work. If there is no volatility, then what's going to do is essentially it essentially is a it's going to be choppy. It's going to go up and come back down. All right. So the idea now, my next move, like next week. So my what I'm going to do next week is use this strategy. Okay, use this strategy. In the meantime, what I'm going to do, uh, is every chance I get, I'm missing out on a lot of things. When something is breaking out like this and it has already been in this trend for a while, I'm just watching it. I can't even get into it because I feel like it's gonna be pulling back and I can't get in. And what in many cases I've seen both. What we'll do is what I watch and I say, okay, what if I entered here? What's gonna happen? And sometimes what it will do is it'll pull back. It'll pull back. And so that turned out to be the right decision. Okay. And so what I need to do is avoid these things where I'm trading the pullback. And when I trade a pullback, I keep entering into it. So what I would do is I would look at high tick. I would high tick, write it down, sell it, and then it would go up a little bit. And I'm thinking, okay, so it's then again I get in and then it pulls back. I lose again and again, again, again. So I need to avoid that as well. So that's been the story for the past week. Okay. So now the strategy has changed. Okay, the strategy has changed. Now what I will do what I will do is I'm going to break down the 5% into 10 trades, which means that it's going to be half a percent risk each time. And and is and I suppose what I so I mean, it is possible that I lose. It is possible that I'm going to lose. Uh, so if I'm at a point where I'm like if I'm at a point where I'm like down 2% per day, which is like essentially four trades that I lost, right? There has to be a point where I stop trading. Okay, there has to be a point where I say, okay, well, I've lost enough for today. I need to stop trading. Right? That's something that I haven't crossed that road yet. I haven't really thought about that yet. Okay, so I have to say, okay, so I made these trades, and if I lose this much, I'm saying to myself, okay, I've traded enough. It's not working out. Something is missing. I need to stop trading. Okay, so what is that number going to be? Is it like 2% or what? And I have to stick to it. Is it going to be 2%? So if I'm trying to draw down about 10%, uh, so I'm going to have to stick with 2% per day. Okay, I'm going to have to say, okay, so if I lose like 2% per day, then I need to stop. If I reach 2%, that means that it's not working out. Okay, it's not working out. It's not working out for that day. Maybe the market is not behaving right. These are things that I need to consider. This is the secondary type of thinking that I need to do in order to make myself more logical in my trading. Okay. So what I would do is the daily stop is going to be 2%. Uh, each trade risk is going to be 0.5%, and I'm going to fine tune the setups that I'll be taking, and then I'm going to specifically identify the setups, the price action that I need to avoid. Okay. One of them is like entering into a pullback, thinking that it's a reversal, and I pay a dear price for it. Okay. So that's the general idea that I'm going to be approaching for the next 2 weeks and the rest of my life, right? This is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, okay? Because again, just to make clear that essentially, uh, essentially, essentially, I haven't really visited this until this time around. I have not really thought about this to this level. Uh, okay, so that's what it's gonna do. 2% daily loss. Okay, and I'll stop. And then risk is gonna be 0.5%. Risk gonna be 0.5%, and I'm gonna be looking to make about a 0.5% to 1% on each trade. But if the trade works out, then I might be able to I might be inclined to add, okay, to add or allow it to run a little longer. Okay, so that adds a little bit of more complexity into trading. Okay, that adds it. I would still have to I still have to if I add, then I still need to consider. So that's going to risk that's going to cause this that trade to be a higher level of a risk factor, right? So if the second trade comes in, I could think of it as another 0.5%. That would be a 1% risk. So the other part about trading, the other part of trading is then understanding that when something is trending. Okay, when something is trending and when it pulls back, I'm thinking the reversion thinking says it's going to trend, it's going to pop back up, and I'm thinking it's reversed, and I get in, and then it turns out to be a pullback that causes problems. So what I need to do is fine tune my setups, and then add something into it so that I can trade the trend. Trend is something that I want to like something. I want to be able to because I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself I missed out and I can't get into it because I'm fearful that it's going to pull back. So I got to figure out some approach to enter into that trade. So when the trend is like very close here, the risk is going to be small because it's going to be 0.5% here. But when the trend has become this big, then I still need to put it here because the the nearest support is all the way here, right? So if it's up here, it's hard to get into it because I could be top ticking it, dropping it. So on a hard number, on a concrete number, I'm looking at a 0.5% loss per each trade. On a daily loss, stop loss about 2%, uh, and always use a stop loss. It has to be a stop loss. In order for this business to continue, I have to put a stop loss. There has to be a stop loss. There has to be a stop loss to this business in order for the business to propel. If I don't put a stop loss in there, I'm gonna be falling back, falling back, falling back over and over again. Because when I because when I enter into the trade, because when I enter into trade, I'm expecting at the point when I'm entering, the trade needs to work immediately. The trade has to work out immediately. If it doesn't work out immediately, that means something's wrong. I'm either too early or I'm wrong. So when I'm entering the trade, it has to work out immediately. Okay? If it does not work out immediately, then there is a problem with my thinking here. Okay? The price tolerance has to meet the criteria of me entering into trade correctly. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I'm gonna actively polish this risk management thing in order to take myself from this demo world into the real world. Okay. So I'm looking at. So I was looking at. So now I was looking at. See, there's correlation between the movie Matrix. The correlation between the Matrix and uh, there's a correlation between the Matrix and day trading. Okay. So in one of the movies, I think it was the first movie. I, yeah, I think it was the first movie. I think it was. Okay, I think it was the first Matrix movie. So so um it's one or the other. The red pill keeps the person in the dream world, or the blue pill wakes the person up. And so what happens is, and gets them out of the battery factory. Okay. So what happens is this. Okay. So one person turned out to be the traitor. Okay. One person turned out to be the traitor, and that person worked with the machines uh, to uh, to essentially undermine the plan of the resistance. Okay, and so they're in the dream world where they're plugged in, and then they are at a restaurant, and they have the steak. So this person is using the steak, and it says, I know that this is not real. I know that this is not real, but it sure tastes good, right? That's what he says. And so he made an agreement with the machines so that he can be plugged back in, okay? Because even though he knows that it is not a real world, he prefers the dream world, because the pain and suffering of the actual world that he's living in is so traumatic and so disappointing that he's unable to bear it. Okay. So far, what I've seen in this world, uh, see. Look at my clothes and look at my shoes, and I'm wearing a hoodie. Then I realized the world of business, of self, uh, uh, it's a self enterprise. I'm at a self enterprise. And if I'm capable of performing my duties properly, it's the same as working for another company, right? It's essentially the same as working for a big company, because I'm utilizing my resources to increase my business within the company. Okay, I had to look at it from that perspective, but it took me living outside of that business to figure out what true business is, and the business is everywhere. It's the survivability of the self in whatever occupation, whatever the situation is. Whether I'm working for a big company that provides certain fringe benefits of working there, and has the lucrative business of getting paid on a regular basis, even on holidays, right? There's holiday pay. But for somebody like myself, who is in a business for myself, I don't get paid on holidays. I have no insurance. So in that respects, Matrix describes this world of the dream world and the real world. Okay, the real world and the dream world, and it finally hit me. If I finally understood. I finally understood all this time. Okay, I finally understood all this time. Taking all these pills, right? These vitamin C pills and things like that, right? I don't know if I have any blue pills. So it finally dawned on me. It finally dawned on me. Speaking of, it finally dawned on me that it finally dawned on me. This is a fish oil. It finally dawned on me. It finally dawned on me. There is a difference between the dream world and the real world. Okay? The dream world, I was living in a dream world for the past 5 years. Even though the data was saying I'm not profitable and I have no edge, I was still putting money into the market, even as early as last week. But I switched to the demo, and I'm in a real world right now. I'm in the real world. This is the real world where this is the real world where the data says something and I believe it. Okay, I'm able to see myself. I'm looking in the mirror and I don't see the dream world. I don't see the nice clothes and all that stuff and the building and the bank and all that stuff, driving in really nice cars. But the real world is essentially like those people in Matrix, bald head, and then I'm plugged in, okay? Living in a world of subsistence, okay? Trying to make this work, okay? And the data has told me the clear distinction between the simulator world to the real world, okay? This is the real world. When I look at the mirror, I see myself. I look at the data. I look at the data, not what the facial structures are. I see what's underneath the water. I see the 90% of me that I was not able to see. And the data, and that's why I was looking at myself superficially, but I was never looking at the data as I needed to see it. But now I see that trading involves quite a few things. There's a lot of things that I need to consider. If I risk all of it at once, I know that if I lose once in 10, it's going to be gone. That's a fact that I was not able to accept because I was living in a dream world. When I'm trading, I cannot be living in a dream world. I have to live in the real world. I have to. Okay? So I have to logically think. I have to supplant this. See, I believe what's happening is that now that I'm using the demo, my mind is free. My mind is free from the emotion and the addiction of trading, so that I can logically think and attach the stickiness to thinking and making conclusions about the data. Whereas if I was still involved in it, the addiction and the emotion disguises it, okay, and keeps me in the dream world. So that's the plan moving forward, and I have to make sure that I have 10. I pass 10 consecutive demo challenges in order for me to go back to risking any money. This might take forever, but at least I'll be able to enjoy the buffet with the money that I'll be saving.